Hey, we're playing a prank today on Colson. His favorite thing in the world is vanilla ice cream, high quality vanilla ice cream. We're gonna disguise vanilla ice cream as mashed potatoes, high quality mashed potatoes.
Alright, it's looking pretty good so far.
Thick, nice and thick, okay? We got our fake canister. Okay, ready?
Gonna pour it in there. Yes. Looks like ice cream to me.
Alright, let's put it in the freezer.
Still reading.
Tastes different.
What does it taste like?
Mushiness.
It's mushy.
It's a new kind.
I just want to talk to you.
It's like, did you get some?
Finley, you want to try it, Finley?
I don't think so. You don't like it?
Why don't you like it?
You gave me something else.
What else could it be?
What'd you give me?
What?
Mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes.
So I may just stay outside until all of that blows over. But what I really want to talk about is just like Colson and his ice cream. Have you ever thought that you were getting exactly what you wanted, only to find out that when you got it, maybe not so much? So in an entirely different way, there's a great story just like that in the Bible in Luke chapter 8. And Luke chapter 8 tells the story of this woman and her encounter with Jesus. And what's really interesting is the woman is not named. She has no name. And, you know, in that time, women weren't treated with the utmost respect. Unfortunately, outside of anybody not named Jesus, Jesus treated women with respect, but they just weren't held in high regard in that society at the time. But the Bible goes through great lengths not to name her, and it just sort of brings out the emphasis that she's just unimportant. Her title is A Woman with the Issue of Blood. She had a continuous flow of blood coming out of her body, coming out of her womb for 12 years. A continuous flow of blood from her womb for 12 years. She had seen doctor after doctor after doctor, and nobody could heal her. Nobody could fix her. There was no medicine. There was no treatment. And here's the killer of it all is not only was she sick and tired of having this condition, but Old Testament law in that day said that that continuous flow of blood meant she was unclean. Now here's what that means. She was considered unclean for 12 years. She could not go to the synagogue, which was the central part of Jewish culture. Not only could she not participate in the community's most important event, she couldn't make physical contact with people. She couldn't touch anyone. She couldn't give you a handshake or a high five or a hug. More than that, she couldn't bump into you on the road. And you weren't allowed to touch her for 12 years. She had no physical contact with anyone because she was unclean. Listen, it doesn't say if she was married or not. She could have been married and her husband could have no physical contact with her for 12 years. Now that's the bedroom, that's the dining room, that's the living room, that's everywhere. If she fell down, He couldn't help her up. If she was crying, he couldn't dry her tears. Not her husband, not her parents, not her brothers or sisters, not her cousins, not her aunts or uncles, not her neighbors, nobody. This woman was alone in life for 12 years. Not just alone, she was broke. She had no money. She spent all of her money on doctors and found no cure. So the 8th chapter of Luke tells the story of she's in town and Jesus comes into town. So Jesus hits town and a crowd just immediately flocks to Jesus. He's surrounded by people on every side. And a guy named Jairus, who's a very important person, a person with a name, right? A very prestigious person, says, I've got a need. My 12-year-old daughter is dying. Jesus, I need you to come and go with me. Jesus goes. It is an important need. So Jesus all of a sudden diverts his direction this way to Jairus' daughter. The crowd is around him. The woman with the issue of blood has been waiting for Jesus to come in hopes of being healed. She heard that Jesus made paralyzed people walk. She heard that there was a man with a withered hand and one touch from Jesus, and the man was giving out high fives. She heard that there were blind people, and Jesus rubbed some mud on their eyes, and they could see. She heard that there was a leper, another person unclean. And when Jesus passed by, Jesus touched that leper, and that leper's skin became smooth as a baby's bottom. She heard that Jesus was coming by. And she just wanted a touch from Jesus. And she thought for the first time in 12 years, it may be possible to get a touch. And not just any touch, a healing touch. So she waited in the shadows, hidden, for her chance. But all of a sudden, Jesus is going the other way. So she's got a decision to make. The woman, a woman, with the issue of blood, says, I can stay here in the shadows. I can save what little respect I've got left. I can wait and maybe Jesus will come back another day. Maybe another doctor will come to town. Maybe it'll just go away. Or I can make the jump. Now understand, if she makes the jump to Jesus, if she goes to Jesus, she has to fight her way through that crowd. There's no way she can get to Jesus without touching people, without rubbing elbows, bumping shoulders. She's gonna have to touch somebody to get to Jesus. This is a huge risk. This is dangerous. If she wants healing, if she wants to be better, she's got to take a risk. You see, it's a risk because if people see her breaking the Old Testament law, the punishment could be severe. The religious leaders at the time have proven that they're not exactly gracious and merciful to people who break Old Testament law. At the very least, she'll be called out, embarrassed, shamed, and detained, and not make her way to Jesus. At the very worst, she could receive physical harm. There's no way to make it to Jesus without touching people, but she's got to be healed. And so the Bible tells this story, and it says, you know what, I'm going to do it. So she sneaks up behind Jesus, she weaves her way through the crowds, and she reaches out behind him and touches the fringe of his garment, probably a tassel. In those days, a devout Jew would wear a tunic with 4 tassels hanging down, and it would represent the commands, God's commands. And if they were in a hurry, like say trying to reach a dying daughter, they would throw that tassel, that tunic up over their shoulder. So these tassels were hanging down. And so the lady with the issue of blood comes up behind Jesus, reaches out, probably grabs a tassel, and the Bible says, instantly, she felt healing. Instantly, the flow of blood ceased. For the first time in 12 years, the flow of blood ceased. This is the part of the story where she should shout for joy and say, "Woo! I just got saved. I just got healed." She doesn't. The Bible says she touched that fringe of the garment. The flow of blood ceased. And then she went back and she hid in the shadows. The thing that she had waited for 12 years, the thing she thought she wanted, the thing she spent all of her money trying to get, the thing she's wished for 12 years, if I could just stop this condition and be normal again. It just happened. And she went back and she hid in the shadows. Have you ever tried to live with a lie or lived with something you were trying to hide? Have you ever tried to smile in public, but on the inside, you're devastated? That's tough. You feel like slinking back in the shadows. See, she had received physical healing, but she needed more. Now, here's the beautiful thing about Jesus. Jesus wouldn't let that go. So she thought she got away with nobody noticing. She somehow managed to weave her way through the crowd. She grabbed the fringe of his garment. She experienced healing. She got out of there. Nobody had noticed. And Jesus stopped on his way to stop a 12-year-old girl from dying for a very important man, Jairus. He stopped. And when he stopped, the whole crowd stopped. And he said, "Who touched me?" Peter is there with him. And Peter said, "Man, you're surrounded by people, Jesus. Who didn't touch you?" Jesus won't let it go. He said, "Who touched me?" And you can imagine that lady in the shadows saying, "Oh no. They're going to find out. They're going to know I touched him. Oh, I broke the law. I'm going to be punished. And now this Jesus is calling me out." Because he was. He called her out. Peter said, "You can't possibly know who touched you." Jesus said, "No, I felt power leave me. Somebody touched me." And he didn't move until somebody fessed up. So eventually the lady, the Bible says, comes out of the shadows, trembling, fell on her feet in front of Jesus and said, I touched you." She told him why. She told the whole crowd why. And then she told him what happened. Now here's the part of the story that's beautiful, and we're to the end, okay? Here's the part of the story that's beautiful. She said, I did it. And Jesus looks at her and he says, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." Two things just happened. Don't miss it. The first is this unnamed woman just received a name that is beautiful beyond any other name. Jesus said, "Daughter." Hey, listen, I've got 2 daughters. They're special. There's nothing in the world like a daughter. It's a piece of your heart. I would never, ever call someone my daughter who is not my daughter, because I care about my daughters that much. I love people. I love you, even if I don't know you. But unless you're McKenna or Caroline, you're not my daughter. Jesus called her daughter. This woman with no name, this unclean woman. Here's the thing. She was Jesus's daughter. Jesus was there when she was knit together in her mother's womb. Jesus was there the day that she was born. Jesus was there when she scraped her knee. Jesus never missed a birthday. Jesus was there when she got her first crush. Jesus was there when his daughter got her heart broken for the first time. Jesus was there during all of those doctor's visits because Jesus was there when she developed this condition. And Jesus was there when she got better. But Jesus knew that his daughter needed more than just physical healing. She needed peace. She needed peace, and the only way that would happen is if he could meet her face to face. No. The only way that could happen is if she could meet him face to face and realize that she's a part of his family, that she is his daughter. Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. That's the second thing. She just needed peace. You don't hide in the shadows when you have peace. I wonder if we know that we're part of God's family, that we are sons and daughters of the Lord. I think if we could grasp that, it would give us peace that passes all understanding. Peace.